Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Mike Check Take Two podcast brought to you by the Inside Edge Network. I am your host, the DAVID, the real Ruiz. In the background, you guys know my producer, Joel, and today we have a very, very special guest today. He is from 92.3 The Fan. He is the audio engineer of the Cleveland Browns. His name is Mac Robinson, ladies and gentlemen. How are you tonight, Mac?
I'm good, Dave. I'm happy to be on with you, man. I love the work that you and Autumn have been doing, so I'm happy to be talking with you, my friend.
Yeah, it's been a long time since we talked on air, right?
Yeah, man, it's been a minute.
Like, who knows, 6 years, 7 years already?
Yeah, you know what? Had to dust it off a little bit, but we're good. We're good.
Isn't that
Got
unbelievable?
it like it was yesterday, my friend. We're
right,
good.
I know that's right. Mac, for the people who don't know who you are, can you tell them a little bit about yourself and what you bring to the table and who Mac is, really?
Yes. So, job-wise, like right off the rip, usually you guys can find me on 923 The Fan. I work as a producer on The Afternoon Drive with Nick Wilson, Jonathan Peterlin. You guys can tune in on 923 The Fan, also on YouTube as well. But also in addition to that, during the Brown season, I work in the booth as the audio engineer. So I work with the team and everything like that, and I travel with them. But on the day-to-day, I also, again, I'm still with the radio station, but then I also get to, again, enjoy all of the games on game day, working hard behind the scenes. So anytime you hear the game on the radio, that's usually me working behind the scenes, making sure everything sounds good, making sure everything sounds great coming through your speakers. So that's what I do when it comes to work, everything like that too. But obviously, massive Cleveland sports fan as well. Always have been, always will be. And on top of that as well, I mean, between all of that, I also massive, anime fan. I know Dave and we always constantly talk about all of that stuff. But between that, also, again, just massive nerd in general. Like I wear that proudly, everything like that too. But pretty much anything, at least. I've been going to the movies a lot more recently here too.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, just massive nerd in general and love sports, everything like that. So I'm open book with all of it.
Yeah, that's awesome. You said you traveled with the team a lot,
Yeah.
every game basically. So
Yes.
what is something that you've picked up or learned or had to get used to during that time traveling with the team? How much of a adjustment has it been for you since you started?
Well, okay, so it's funny because, I'll travel on the same, team plane with them and everything like that too. But even prior to, starting my job, actually, like I really hadn't flown on an airplane since I was like 8. So it was going from that to, hey, every other week or maybe like 3 weeks in a row, like we're going on the road. And so it's, constantly packing the suitcase up a little bit, packing for like 36 hours, basically. And, going ahead. And again, I will fully say, like, it will never get any better. I never will complain about, travel, everything like that, because of the fact that, it's all chartered and everything like that too. So like, I don't have to worry about anything. It is some of the nicest, like, at least treatment, everything like that too. And again, to where like I constantly go from that to, hey, I'm back in the studio like the following week as well.
Nope. Where'd you go?
It's and kind of just an interesting roller coaster.
When
it's such an interesting roller coaster. Sorry.
No, you're fine.
Go ahead.
When you were traveling, you said you travel a lot with the team. Did you go to London with the team? Was it London?
I did. Yeah.
How was that
London.
experience?
I did indeed.
Going to London with the team.
It was wild, man. Because we left we left at like 7 o'clock, like 7 or 8 o'clock the night prior. And basically everybody had told me like, look, try to get as much sleep as you possibly can on the flight. And that way you can kind of be a little bit adjusted by the time we get over there. And so did that, like even the sleep was iffy, but like, we get down there and it's 7 a.m. And again, like we get through everything and you still like it. There's such a period where you're just trying to understand just what the hell is going on and where you are. Like, and again, just seeing like the rolling hills and everything like that as you're driving along. It was a wild trip. And even too, like there were, and I won't name names, but there were certain people that were able to find the aux cable and that were just blasting, like whether it's like 70s 80s rock to like weird German EDM. And it's like, again, it's 8 a.m. Like we just got off of like a 7-hour flight, and there are just some like they're just going. And there were some people that were annoyed by it. I honestly, I had a great time with it, but like again, and even the place that we were staying at was like a 5-star like resort that they even told us to. They were like, oh yeah, no, like this is the same place that Tom Cruise likes to stay because he likes to land on a helipad. I was like, I've never been to a place that has a helipad.
Yeah, that's insane.
Yeah, no, and I'm like, that's a sick flex. Okay, and like they even had like their own like little like food garden where they had like 8 different kinds of like mint. And I was like, I didn't know you had like this many different variations of all the stuff. So like,
did anyone land on the helipad while you were there?
No, I did not see any helicopters come down on the helipad.
That'd been insane.
Unfortunately, I that's the one thing I wish that I had was I wish we had more time on the grounds a little bit more, just so that I had a little bit more of a chance to explore. But I will say we didn't go into, at least my group, we didn't go into downtown London because it was a pretty far like travel ordeal in order to get there.
Right.
So we just went to one of the smaller towns around town, and dude, it was an experience. It was awesome, like getting to know all the different people and everything like that too, and seeing the locals, and again, like introducing yourself like to like the different locals and everything like that are telling you like, oh, I'm a Patriots fan, I'm a Raiders fan, I'm a Bengals fan, and like seeing all of these different people. And then also like, as I tell them I'm a Tottenham fan, they immediately are just like, I don't care that you're a Browns fan, you're good in my book. Like,
yeah, right.
Immediately being okay with you right off the rip.
So while you were out there, not London, just in general, all of the places you traveled, all of the cool cities, is there like a specific restaurant or something that like you're like, this place is must go every time I come to the city? It doesn't have to be fancy, it doesn't have to be crazy, but what's one place that you would say, if I'm going to Boston, this is where I'm going. If I'm going to Pittsburgh, this is where I'm going.
So, okay. I have places in mind, and I am terrible because I suck with remembering names. And so like I can tell you because we have like certain meals and stuff like that where as like a radio crew we'll go. And we try to do it every single year. The one that I definitively remember name wise was we went to this, and again, it was like our team dinner, everything like that. We went out to Mastro's down in Houston, and it was one of those ones where like it's a fancy steakhouse. Like it's just a massive like bone-in ribeye that you get. And again, they had all of like, you order the sides for the table and everything like that. And they constantly are just like, all right, what drinks do you want? Like we can get you whatever wine you want. And you know, we have these cocktails and everything, but the 2 dishes in particular, and I got to give credit where it's due. Gerard Cherry was the one that steered us towards them. Was they had Wagyu beef hamburger helper was one of the sides. It was incredible, like legitimately. And we just got it just because we're like, you got to try it. Like, I have no idea what this is going to be. You got to try it. It was so good. And then
the most expensive hamburger helper I've ever heard of.
Legitimately. Like, again, you go to a fancy restaurant, you don't expect to go, I want the hamburger helper, but it was the best decision that we made. And then the dessert that they had there,
what city was that?
That was in Houston. Was in Houston. And we also, and he kept on saying the entire meal, he was like, hey, save room for the butter cake. Save room for the butter cake. And we're like, all right, fine. We got to get the butter cake. And mind you, I'm thinking something small, like just like a little, like tiny little ramekin with like a little bit of ice cream on top. It came out. It was like this big around. and it was like that thick, and they had like a softball of ice cream on top.
Man, you know what they say, Mac. Everything's bigger in Texas.
Dude, exactly. Look, I underestimated it. I had no idea what was coming. And it was to the point where everybody that was there at that dinner was so full that you could not eat. I couldn't eat until halftime of the next day, like during the game.
I remember I went to a couple of games out of Cleveland, and I would always text you.
Yeah.
Like, can you see me? This is where I'm sitting. I remember when I went to Baltimore for their home opener, which was insane. You're like, is this you over here? I was like, that's exactly where I am. And I'm telling my buddy next to me, I'm like pointing. I was like, yeah, my buddy Max over there in the booth. Same thing with Pittsburgh. That was really cool.
See, and like, that's my favorite thing personally is like, again, it's because like where I'm at in the booth, like we get a pretty good view, but for me, it's always fun. Like just finding friends through the stands and everything like that, and just making it like, again, having that little fun Where's Waldo basically, of trying to figure out where you're at and trying to.
What are you wearing? There. A Browns jersey. How am I supposed to find you?
Exactly.
But when you're in the sea of purple and gold, it was quite easy actually. So
yeah, no, your white jersey really stood out. In the purple and black jerseys there.
I know we've been talking a little bit about the Browns.
Yeah,
I do want to move on a little bit from the travel. We've made some additions this offseason.
Yeah.
We made some improvements on the offensive line. Is there anyone you're really excited about that the Browns have picked up this season that you are intrigued on how they're going to perform under the Cleveland Browns?
Well, okay. And again, this is going to be like, it's going to sound like a bit of a cop-out answer, right? But I think the 3 offensive linemen that they brought in are really intriguing to me. Zion Johnson's really young, and, you know, early on, it looked at as like a little bit of a bust. His rookie year was fantastic, but the last couple of years kind of scuffled a little. But in talking to, you know, a former teammate of his as well, like he was even saying, like, look, his rookie year, he had a really strong veteran center next to him. So, you know, once you go ahead and get somebody next to him, he's all of a sudden able to do really well. And it wasn't just him. And so in looking at what he's able to do, I think he's going to be an interesting piece there. Elton Jenkins from Green Bay, I think, is also really interesting. The last couple of years, he's been solid, again, solid to good. But he was an all-pro when it came to him being a guard previously. I don't think he'll be at the left side like he was in those seasons, but I think they're going to move him to right side because Zion was stronger on the left side there as well. So I think that you can bookend whatever rookie center you bring in that I think that they're going to try to go through this draft season. But I think that they're going to be able to bookend their rookie center really well with 2 good veterans. And then Titus Howard too, you know, getting brought over from Houston. I think that he's somebody that is a really good pass protector. He struggled at times in the run game, but at the same time gives you a more consistent experience. I think that you had gotten from Jack Conklin over the last couple of years, especially dealing with injury. And not to mention too, I mean, KT Levison was basically a turnstile last year at tackle. So, you know, getting somebody who only allowed a couple of pressures last year at the right tackle spot, I think that really helps whoever you put under center. And on top of that too, I think that it really sets up well, given the fact that, you know, Zion Johnson was a great dude in the locker room. Elton Jenkins, a very well-respected veteran in Green Bay's locker room. And
that's really important, especially with the history the Browns have had the last couple seasons with personnel in the locker room. Even going back to Baker, it seemed like there was always something going on in the locker room, really up until now.
Well, and to that point as well, Dave, is the fact that, you know, it's also replacing the guys that you don't have anymore at this point, because, you know, Joel Bitonio, you know, he's unsigned right now. It seems like he probably is going to end up just retiring, which, to be honest, I think that, you know, and I love Joel, but also like for his health, I'm glad, like I would be happy to see him actually be able to retire at this point. Because I mean, I think Kevin Stefanski said it in one of the I think it was the win over Green Bay. The fact that he went in and wasn't sure if he was going to play, he struggled to walk at times because of the pain in his back.
And played so the whole game.
And not just that game, he played the entire season still with that. And so, you miss his leadership that he's been, a stalwart there in that locker room, but also Wyatt Teller moving on in free agency. And again, he had been somebody that had some struggles over the last couple of seasons as well. And so, he moves on to Houston. And at that point now, you have some of those veterans coming in like Howard, like Jenkins, that can come in and kind of be those veterans in that room in particular, and also in the locker room as a whole.
Right. So you mentioned before we had a couple holes. You mentioned the draft. Do you think the Browns go rookie center out the gate? Do you think they go center with their first pick? Or do you think they pick up with the wide receivers that are out there? Well, what are your thoughts on that?
So I think that in particular with this draft, I think it's interesting because, I was at the Combine in Indy at the end of February, and the general consensus that I heard from, everybody there pretty much, whether it be from NFL personnel to other, journalists as well out there, is just the fact that, overall, there was just a lack of buzz when it came to free agency and the draft in particular. And a lot of people were more so looking towards that 2027 class. Okay. And what I found interesting in particular is the fact that, again, it's, and we talk about, you brought up wide receiver, and I think that it's definitely a need for sure. But I think that, the way that certain teams view this is that, when you get past, pick 10, right? Then teams kind of view like that range between like 15 all the way to like 50 in a similar kind of tier where you're going to get very similar players in that group. Right. And so I think that they kind of look at it as, are the top end guys that you're getting, like there's not as many blue chippers, but it's a deep class overall. So you might be able to get more value later on. And it's why, for me, I look at somebody like Carnell Tate, right? Like I love Carnell Tate.
That's who I'm looking at.
See, here's my thing with the wide receiver class is that I like Carnell Tate a lot, but I also don't know, is he somebody that you really take at 6 where, that's usually where you get your Malik Neighbors, you get your Jamar Chase, you get Marvin Harrison Jr., all those top end guys. And, for Carnell Tate, it's, hey, like I think we had Daniel Jeremiah on earlier today. And he even was saying, like, I think that, Carnell Tate can be somebody who can be a solid 2, maybe develop into a 1. And if I'm the Browns, I'm looking at it as, in a class where you have somebody like Casey Concepcion, or even I love Chris Bell and Omar Cooper and those guys like that you can get a little bit later on. I would rather go for one of those guys because I don't think the gap is that different in going from Carnell Tate to those guys. And I do love Jordan Tyson too, if he's available a little bit later, might be because of the injury. But comparatively, like I look at the tackle class, and I'm somebody who's very vocal in being on the side for Monroe Freeling. And whether it's moving back a little bit, being able to select him, I think that he's somebody who, it might take a little bit for him to develop more, but also you're not converting him over to the left tackle spot. Whereas when it comes to overall tackles in this class, I don't think that you're getting a lot of guys that are on the right side in particular. And if you're going to try to go ahead and convert somebody over, that's a lot more time that they're having to adjust to the speed of the game, as well as trying to adjust to just the transition in general. And I think that can overwhelm some guys as well. And if I'm going at it and selecting somebody in that top spot, I don't want to go ahead and have somebody that I have to worry about how are they going to convert to that position. So that's where I look at it as I would rather take somebody like Monroe Freeling, who has a very high ceiling. And even looking back to, he his draft profile, really kind of is very similar to, and honestly, the whole context of it all is similar to another raw offensive tackle that didn't get a ton of starts in college, although he was new to the position, didn't have a ton of starts. And it was in a weak draft class in 2013, and it was Lane Johnson. And he ended up turning into one of the best tackles in the league. Another guy that, Freeling gets compared to is Colton Miller, who again is one of the best tackles, but one of the best left tackles in the game right now as well. So I look at that as, hey, I trust in George Warhop to go ahead and get the best out of this guy. And I don't have to have him adjusting to a new position. Give me that guy, because that position is more scarce than getting a top end wide receiver.
Right. Now, with the recent history in the last couple Browns drafts, do
Mhm.
you think they keep that number 6 pick, or do they trade a little further back to try to get more capital?
I think they're going to try to trade back a little bit. I
Mhm.
think that they kind of look at this class as there's a few top end guys, but I also don't necessarily know if those fit correctly and with some of the pieces that they already have on the roster. Again, depending on who's available. Like if somebody like an Arvell Reese is there, I could see them taking an Arvell Reese. I know there are people in that building that are big fans of Arvell, but at the same time, I look at this draft class and I think that they're in the right spot because a guy that I'll bring up is Ruben Bain.
Mhm.
And at his pro day, obviously lights it up. Everybody loves it, everything like that. But more so for me, I'm keeping an eye on, okay, what are some of the things that you hear coming out of it? And it's immediately, well, he's got a meeting with the Cowboys, and Jerry Jones was there along with the head coach and the scouts, and they sent the entire farm. And
Right.
so with him being there at 12, Miami Dolphins, he confirms afterward, hey, I'm meeting with Miami in the next 2-3 days.
Yeah. So
And so,
what's next?
yeah, exactly. And so that's where, Miami's picking there at 11. And another team, too, that I think is underrated for somebody like Bain is Kansas City, because they've already traded off of Trent McDuffie.
Yep.
They paid George Karlaftis, but at the same time, if they're trying to save money to go ahead and be that next iteration of the Kansas City Chiefs, maybe you trade off of a Karlaftis in order to get more draft picks. So get your next pass rusher and Ruben Bain. So let's trade up a little bit. If you can get to 6, all of a sudden you're able to create a market between a bunch of those guys. And especially if you got Jerry Jones that's hook, line, and sinker, and is somebody like Bain or even like a Caleb Downs, Jerry Jones is going to pay you whatever the hell it takes in order to get his guy.
Right. So you think I was going to bring up some other teams, and Kansas City was one of those teams because they have the number 9 pick. And I have a crazy hot take about the Kansas City Chiefs next season that I've spoke without them about, and people hear about me. They hear me speak about it and they think I'm crazy. I've even made bets already.
Okay. All right. Put your money where your mouth is. I respect it.
I've had to.
Yeah.
The last time the Kansas City Chiefs had a top 10 pick, they drafted Patrick Mahomes. So what their track record has proven to me is they know how to pick in those top 10 picks thus far, even though they haven't had it in a while, because they're having a down year of a dynasty, and I think that's going to be really scary with whatever player they pick at that point.
Yeah.
Because I thought they were going to go running back at 9. Then they went and signed the Super Bowl MVP.
Yeah.
I think they can still go running back at 9 if he's available. Because Kenneth Walker, he gets banged up throughout the season. Do they, if Carnell Tate's available, do they bring that number 2 wide receiver? Because we really don't know what Xavier Worthy has left. We know he's young. He suffered the injury last year, but he's a smaller wide receiver, and he seems to get a little banged up every season. So that could also be another target for the Kansas City Chiefs, because we know Travis Kelce's at the back end, and he was one of their number 1 receiving options. I hear what you're saying on defense, but if we know anything about the Kansas City Chiefs, they don't need a lot of weapons.
I hear what you're saying, and I will say Carnell Tate is Kansas City is the only team that I look at Carnell Tate and go, that makes sense for you to take him in the top 10. That's the only one that I look at, and I'm just like, he fits so perfectly opposite of Rashee Rice, where Rice is more of that explosive big play receiver that you can go ahead and utilize somebody like Carnell Tate, who I think is a very good route runner. I think that he can go ahead and really do well in creating space and creating separation and be that kind of possession receiver for you as well. So I think he makes a lot of sense for them. The Jeremiah Love stuff I think is so interesting because of the fact that I think there's a lot of teams in that range that I think would jump for Love, especially because of how good of a prospect that he is. Right. Again, I think he's better than Ashton Jeanty, just because I agree
with that.
I think he's faster, and I think he's got better hands. And on top of it, I think that, and it goes, a little under the radar, but the fact that, the running backs, and I was there the day at the combine watching the drills in Lucas Oil, and, the running backs were done and out of the way first. They were done probably by about like 2:00.
Okay.
He was there until about like 5, because he went out and he said, I want to go and run routes with the wide receivers.
Yeah, I saw that. That's huge.
Yeah, and again, it just goes to show, like, hey, he's not. And it reminded me of the fact that when I was at the combine back in 2017 and seeing, how they had the drill set up and everything like that, they would use one player in particular to go ahead and help set up the drills to teach everybody. And the one that was running the routes every single time was Christian McCaffrey, and he was running them almost like in Madden, where you see the routes drawn up. He would run them down to like the inch.
That's
where
insane.
Like exactly where it needed to be cut, he would be cutting. And so he reminds me a lot of one of those explosive players like that. And he's going to be one of those top end running backs to where I think a lot of teams are really going to be jumping for him. And honestly, I don't even know if he makes it to 6, because I think that
I agree with that.
I think Tennessee is a team, and I know that there have been some people that have tried to poo-poo it a little bit, but I think that it makes a lot of sense because, for one, you get again a little bit more relief off of Cam Ward's plate, just because you also get a receiving back, but also a star running back there as well. And also too, from an economic standpoint, you got a new stadium coming up here.
Yeah,
you need star players on your team that are going to be the face of your franchise. And what better than a explosive skill player along with your franchise quarterback? So I think that both of those make a lot of sense there. But I think that for Kansas City in particular, I think offense makes a lot of sense. But I also think that for them, I think that they are trying to look at what are the next steps of this next iteration of the Kansas City Chiefs, because I think that now, and to your credit, they've been drafting really well the last few years. I mentioned Karlaftis. You had to re-sign him. Trent McDuffie, you couldn't afford to sign him because he's one of the best corners in the game. So you traded him to the Rams, who gave him a record deal.
Few years ago, Nick Bolton.
Yeah, exactly.
So
and even Josh Simmons last year at left tackle. You got a franchise left tackle at the 32nd pick. So again, they draft really well. And so for them, I think that they want to take advantage of, like, hey, we're not going to be up here often. We need to take advantage of this right now while we can to go ahead and springboard into, Mahomes and the Chiefs version 2.
So we got to move forward a little bit.
Yeah.
Since we're still talking draft.
Okay.
My favorite time of the year, fantasy football season. I know it's very early. But this is where the research starts. This is where you got to start making moves and realizing who you want to draft next season. Maybe you don't want to say, you don't want to give your league mates tips on your strategies or anything like that. But are there any players specifically you see going number 1 next year?
I mean, it's tough to not say. At least for right now, I would say Bijan probably would be number 1 for me, just because of the fact that, I think it's going to come down to reputation. Even though I think that Atlanta's going to struggle next year, I think that, the reputation of how often that, Stefanski runs the ball, I think is going to just catapult Bijan into that top spot. And also on top of it, an underrated move this offseason, Tyler Algier leaves via free agency and goes over to Arizona. So Bijan Robinson really gets the full workload down there. Although I know that they also signed my other boy, Brian Robinson, brother from another mother, down there. And so he goes ahead and signs down in Atlanta. So you get a little bit of a 1-2 punch. But at the same time, I think that Bijan's really going to be able to take advantage of that down there. I think he's definitely one of the top guys out there. And I think that a safe bet every year is going to be Ja'Marr Chase. Like, I understand that they didn't have a ton of additions this offseason, but I also think that's part of the allure of taking a Ja'Marr Chase is just, again, they're going to throw it to him every damn time. There's a reason why Joe Flacco wanted to go back. It's option A, Ja'Marr Chase, option B, T. Higgins, option C, go back to option A. Like, it is just running it back with Ja'Marr.
That's to an extent. For me, my number 1 would be Puka Nacua, even with the league of troubles.
Yeah.
His volume, just pure volume, is remarkable. Even if he's not getting the big plays, if you're playing PPR, he won't score a touchdown, still get you 25. And I believe that the way fantasy football has been taken off the last couple of years, I think we're going to start seeing a little less of the running backs, because I feel like you can you can have a serviceable running back and still win your league. From my experience, it's the wide receivers that are going to win your league in the modern day, especially with the explosiveness of a lot of them. In one of my leagues, I was very unfortunate. I drafted Malik Neighbors.
Oh, man.
And that was amazing until it wasn't. I still made the playoffs, but it was when you're starting Wan'Dale Robinson as your wide receiver one, it's going to be a bad season.
Dude, I get it. I was battling between Jordan Addison and Marvin Harrison, dude. I get it.
That's another thing. Marvin Harrison was hurt majority of the season. That's actually another reason I won my other league, because I had Marvin Harrison. As soon as he went down, I picked up Michael Wilson, and he just looks like the wide receiver one he should have been all season.
Dude, and I gotta say too, my guy, I love this player. Definitely is going to be in that conversation next year. Jahmyr Gibbs. You know, the second that David Montgomery goes to Houston, I know you bring in Isaiah Pacheco, but
it's not the same.
It's not the same. It's not the same. And honestly, like, I think that he might have a little bit of a punch, but I don't think he's nearly the kind of three-dimensional running back that you had when it came to Montgomery, where Montgomery could catch passes. So you had a little bit of that versatility of you're not really sure where you're going to go with it. I think Gibbs is just going to go on another level next year, which again is wild, seeing as he finishes a top 5 running back last year. And that's with David Montgomery in the building.
I was expecting that last year. He disappointed me a lot last year. And when he went off, he went big. He had great games.
For sure.
I just don't really trust. I'm starting to lose trust in Jared Goff.
That's fair.
Slowly but surely. But we'll see what happens with the Detroit Lions. I'm a little nervous. I kind of think Goff is a fraud.
I don't disagree with you there, man.
So it's really hard for me to pick any Detroit Lions right now, whether it's Amon-Ra St. Brown, whether it's Jahmyr Gibbs, because I just can't take that risk.
Well, I'll say this. From the pass catchers in Detroit, I agree with you, just because I don't know how that's going to be divvied out and how you go ahead and divvy up the targets around there in particular. But I think that especially in the running back room, with it being more clearly Gibbs 1, Pacheco 2, I do think that it really clears the way a lot more for Gibbs to at least have more guaranteed touches in Detroit in particular, compared to, the other options that they have there.
Yeah. So I'm really excited for it, because my favorite thing to do, and I'm still doing the research on it, I love to find a breakout tight end. Love it.
Okay.
I love it. I'm like undefeated in it, honestly, the last couple of years. At Sam Laporta, dominated.
Fair.
At Warren, he dominated. I even streamed Taysom Hill on a couple games where he just goes off. It sounds crazy.
I'm not a Taysom Hill guy. I'm not a Taysom Hill guy. Ever since he screwed me out of money back in 2018, I've been solely off of Taysom Hill.
I seem to have the hot hand with tight ends. When I streamed Taysom Hill, he threw a touchdown, rushed for a touchdown, and caught a touchdown all in the same game. And ever since then, there has been people in my leagues that purposely draft him or pick him up on the waiver wire simply so I don't play him for his miracle game that he has once a season. It's getting out of hand, actually. So I'm excited. I'm really big on the tight end in Seattle.
Okay.
The rookie tight end. Yeah. There's another one too, I believe.
Barner. Yeah,
Arroyo. So I was really high on Arroyo last year, but Barner ended up being really a lot better than I expected. Arroyo didn't drop a pass in college. He has a crazy wingspan, and I thought this was going to be the guy. But I failed. The tight end, and if Jackson Dart plays, is it Theo Johnson?
Yes.
For the Giants, if Jackson Dart is playing, he's catching the touchdown. Yeah. I don't care what anybody says. Every single game Jackson Dart played, Theo Johnson caught a touchdown, and I looked amazing at that time when I.
By the way, don't sleep on Daniel Bellinger, who signed with Tennessee this offseason. Was with New York, but reunites with Dayball down in Tennessee. I think that he's going to be cooking up a lot down there with Cam Ward and those guys.
That's awesome. Whoa. we're running up against it for this segment. We've talked a lot about football, but we were lucky enough to have sponsors by Fanatics, so we got to hear a little bit from them. Fanatics isn't just our name. It's who we are. Loyal, passionate fans dedicated to our favorite teams and the sports we love. That's why we're honored to be able to offer fans the world's largest collection of sports apparel and jerseys from all over the leagues, teams, and players you love. We feature a wide selection of gear from every league, including the NFL, MLB, NBA, NHL, and NCAA merchandise, which allows us to serve fans from football, baseball, hockey, basketball, lacrosse, soccer, and golf, and everything else that gets your heart pumping. Go to fanatics.com by using the QR code on the screen right now to celebrate your teams. Another big thank you to Fanatics. Make sure you use that QR code if you're going to purchase a jersey, if you're going to purchase a hat, workout gear. Just go to Fanatics. It's the best.
Yeah, and especially with that product, dude. Kudos.
Yeah, thanks to Joel. Thanks to Joel. He popped up a little bit earlier, and then he went out and shut his camera off. But no, Joel's amazing, and that's the kind of quality content when Joel produces it. So again, kudos to Joel.
Shout out to Joel. Love to see it.
So we're gonna move on a little bit. We're gonna talk about our Cleveland Cavaliers. The Cleveland Cavaliers recently clinched their playoff berth by defeating the Golden State Warriors 118-111 on April 2nd. Donovan Mitchell had 25 points, followed by Max Strus that had 24 points. How do you feel about this berth? Are you confident in it? Do you think we have a lot to see from the Cavs? Do you think they've peaked? What are your thoughts on our Cavaliers?
Look, when it comes to the Cavs, I have my concerns and I have my doubts because of the fact that, and it was after that game last night. Again, it was a big win, but afterward you had Jared Allen and Max Strus both saying, hey, our effort level still isn't there. Mm-hmm. We still need to get better on defense. We need to be more focused. And again, reminder, it is August 3rd, and the playoffs start on August 15th. You shouldn't be 12 days away from the postseason and going, hey, you know what? Our effort level is kind of bad. Like, we could be better. Like, you shouldn't be having these kinds of doubts and these kinds of questions at this point in the season. And I understand you've had your injuries, but I think that the talent is there. And I will say, too, I think that James Harden, when the trade was made, I was upset. I love Darius, but I also think that with what Harden does and the way that he affects the bigs, I think that his impact is phenomenal. And I think that we have to remember what was said when the trade went down, which is that you don't need Harden to take over the game.
Nope.
Harden is your secondary guy. And Harden's and the thing is that Harden, I don't care if you go, 3 of 11 from the court, as long as you got 14 assists. And the way that he was involving Evan Mobley and Jared Allen and how he's had the effect on those guys, I think that he's done a great job of raising the floor. But my other doubt that comes in particular is I look at Donovan because I think that, the big thing that everybody talked about when the trade, not only when the trade was made, but throughout the season was, all right, well, what about the defense? What about the defense? What about the defense? And for the most part, a lot of it was, well, hey, you can't have 2 small guards. We can't be doing that. So you ship out Darius, fine. And you go ahead and you have, James Harden next to him. And again, when that trade's first done, all of a sudden it's, you have the intensity from Harden. You have the intensity from Keon Ellis and Dennis Schroeder off the bench. But you also, again, have some of those lapses from Donovan and from, the guys trying to get together on all of this and become, more harmonious throughout, the rest of the season. And it's where I have the biggest question being, is Donovan going to be able to come through? Because, and this is where I come back to it, I think Donovan has the most pressure on him this offseason or in the postseason. Because Donovan, it's, hey, you are the guy. you have to come through. And whether it was the New York series the first year that he was here, where he struggled mightily, but again, a lot of people brought up how Darius also struggled. And then also, again, in a couple years ago, where it was against Orlando, Darius or Donovan got to 50 points. It took him I want to say 37 shots.
Right.
But again, it's, hey, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take all of these shots up. And also the other part of it too that we haven't really discussed was, last year was the fact that, he had the lowest minutes of his career. And yet when we got to the postseason, his legs still went out on him. And when it went to the postseason. And
I think a lot of that has to be carrying people like Darius Garland and even carrying people like Max Strus. The last person I want to hear talk about ever is Strus, when for the last few years in the playoffs, he'll give you these 24-point games in the regular season. The man will score 30 in a quarter in the regular season. Yet when we're playing the New York Knicks and Max Strus is open in the corner and they dime it to him, wide open shot, bricks it. I'm sick and tired of that. A big thing, the number one thing I mentioned to people when we traded Darius Garland for James Harden is people forget how good of a passer James Harden actually is.
Yes.
For me, Garland, half the time, your point guard can't end a game with 3 assists. And that was happening more often than not with Darius Garland. And a lot of people talked about it. The best availability, he was never on the court.
You're right.
The man stubs a toe and misses a playoff series. That's unacceptable.
Okay. Also, I do want to just say one thing, because this is my own gripe with the Cavaliers organization as a whole. I understand that you want to protect some of the players with your injury designations, but also you got to be truthful and honest, because again, I think that there are certain guys that might have had worse injuries. And the prime example was in the Orlando series with Jared Allen all of a sudden missing time. And they were saying, oh, it's just, dealing with some pain and everything like that. And he had cracked ribs.
Right.
But again, because of the way you present it, we had people on the station that were calling in saying, well, when I was playing in the Y, I had a hard fall and I was able to play through it. And it's just, for me,
it's not the same.
Exactly. But also it's you doing a disservice to your players for having to even deal with that kind of blowback. But to your point, though, I think that Harden has done a great job of unlocking the bigs. And I also think, though, that if we're going to go ahead and talk about Donovan Mitchell as being a top 10 player, I think that we have to talk about the fact that he has to step up in those moments. I understand what you're saying with Max Strus, but Strus came in as a shooter and known in Miami as being a guy that doesn't really try on defense. And he's come in here and he's been a solid defender, a really good rebounder overall, and an overall glue guy that's more well-rounded than when he came in here.
My thing is that we see all that, and I don't disagree with you. Where I disagree is we only see that during the regular season. And you can say he faces these teams that they're not on the Cavs intensity level or even skill level with some of our star players. But when you're facing the New York Knicks, you can't have a matchup nightmare and you can't be a liability. And that's what we see a lot of him when we face these other teams once we get to the nitty-gritty of the playoffs.
See, but my counter to that, though, is, even going back in the Boston series, he shot over 40% from 3. Last year against Indiana, I know that everybody likes to highlight that 0 for 10 performance that he had in Game 5. But prior to that game, his stats in that series, he shot 39% from the floor and 34% from deep. And that includes the 0 for 10 performance. And so I think that he showed up the rest of that series. But I think that, again, it's highlighted by the fact that it's what do we remember? It's the bad taste in our mouth of that last game. And I think that I agree with what you said about, certain guys stepping up. And that's why I still love Isaac Okoro, but I also understood why you moved on.
Right.
And it's why, for me, I love a Keon Ellis. But you have those guys in the postseason, but it's also important to remember those guys are role players. Those guys are guys that are supposed to step up in a few moments here and there. But again, when we're forgetting about the fact that, Game 5, Evan Mobley's on a heater early on in the game. And what happens? It's Donovan and Darius are going ahead and trying to take over, and they just can't make a bucket. And that's where, again, Donovan, you're the leader. It's you have to recognize, hey, I understand that Evan is on a heater right now. I know I'm off right now. I need to keep getting the ball to him. I need to make sure that we're dominating down in the paint with him right now.
Well, but that's part of the reason that why Darius had to go.
Yeah,
you know, he wanted to score, and he's not a scorer. He wasn't playing the kind of basketball that we needed him to play in order to move on to the next level. And I get what you're saying when you bring up Strauss's stats from like before that happened. That's just another example of one of those moments when the pressure's not on, he's going to do great. When his back gets up against the wall, everything goes out the window. The shooting percentage and everything like that is scared by the fact of these big moments. You have role players all over the league that show up in big moments. Every championship team, their role players show up in big moments. And he's not the same caliber, but I'm just using this as an example. Draymond Green shows up in big moments. Players like that, where they'll make a key play, where when I feel like it's time for Strauss to make that key play, when it's not game 1 or 2, he shits the bed. That's the realization behind it. I need to see more of him. And hopefully these games don't go to this point. I need to see more of him in game 5 and 6. I don't really care about game 1 and 2. I need those at the back end of the series, not the front end of the series.
Well, and I hear that. And I also will say too, as a counterpoint to what you're mentioning there too, is the fact that I also think that, you know, looking at what that series was last year, I think that Max Strus flourishes as a guy who's your 5th, 6th, 7th guy, and really doesn't necessarily have as much on his plate in that regard. Last year, you had Evan that was in and out of the lineup. You had, you know, DeAndre Hunter that was in and out of the lineup. You had Darius that was in and out of the lineup. And again, it's him trying to go ahead and say like, hey, you know what? I have to step up. I'll go ahead and try to make these shots, everything like that too.
Right.
And I know I have to put up shots in order to try to balance that out. And when you're doing that, and when you're kind of out of your comfort zone in that regard, I understand that. I get what you're saying in that regard. I need you to step up more. But by comparison, though, again, with what you mentioned about Harden's a great passer. Harden gets the bigs involved, everything like that. So again, barring injury, it should be, with the way that Harden's kind of setting things up, it should be Donovan is set as your number 1. And the way that Harden's really playing, he's setting it up so that Jared Allen and so that Evan Mobley are really getting involved more, so that those guys are getting more priority, and he can be that 4th guy that is your safety net underneath, rather than it falling down to Strus with the way that some of the injuries played out. And I will say, though, the one guy that I compare, that everything that you're saying I agree with and I would say about, is Dean Wade. Dean Wade is MIA every big game, regular season, postseason, doesn't matter. That dude does not show up when it comes to the big moments, when it comes to big matchups. Gives me nothing on offense and gives me maybe a little bit on defense, but I'd rather see Strus at that point.
Right. And that, I think that's the Cavs' biggest issue right now is their role players.
Yes.
Every championship team has the role players that show up a little bit. And throughout the last couple years, the last 4 playoff berths that the Cleveland Cavaliers have had, that's our biggest weakness. And it's easy to say, of course, your role players are going to be the biggest weakness. No, because if the role players are doing their job and it's still a close game, then that's when your star player attempts to make that big shot. But we're not even getting to that point where Donovan Mitchell can go, hey, this one's on me. I screwed up the last bucket or something of that nature. We're just not getting there. And this is going to be a big definitive year.
Sorry to cut you off. I want to add one other comment in too, but like it was after the back-to-back earlier in the week, and hearing Donovan talk after one of the games, or it was at the end of last week. Whenever they played the Grizzlies, and you know, they had a bad defensive game that night. They still won, but they had a bad defensive effort. Kenny Atkinson calls him out the whole 9, you know. But he talked after the game, and he mentioned like, yeah, you know, we got to get better defensively, everything like that. And then he also added the caveat, and this really kind of raised a little bit of an alarm bell for me. But it was him just saying, yeah, it's tough to, give that effort, especially on defense, on the defensive side, and constantly give that effort. And I'm just like, I appreciate that you're being honest about that, but also like, dude, I need you to lock in.
Right.
Like,
Exactly.
at a certain point, like, again, this is Memphis. Like Memphis or no, it was Orlando. It was Orlando. And so like they had done a pretty good job overall. But again, there were times where it was just lazy switches, everything like that. And just certain like mental mistakes that you're just kind of letting slip through. And again, like we said, with a championship team, you can't have that, especially going into the postseason.
So yeah, and another big thing I want to bring up with the expansion coming soon, the conferences are going to change a little. We might see the Memphis Grizzlies in our conference in 2028. We might see some of those teams, the Timberwolves in our conference. And if those Western teams come over, which are still playoff teams in the West, and they're coming to the weaker division, how are the Cavs going to stack up facing those players and those guys and those teams so many times a year?
Well, and the other part of this too, that is another wrinkle on top of that, is the fact that it's the 2 expansion teams. You can only protect so many players. And so you're going to have some of those role players that you're talking about that get picked off your team. And all of a sudden you have to replace those all of a sudden.
But I think you can only protect 6 to 8 guys. It's one or the other. I talked about a lot. So 6 to 8 guys, and you can't protect anyone that's going into free agency. There's going to be a lot of issues, and there's going to be a lot of guys that want to fresh start and be a part of history that are just going to go, well, maybe I go to Seattle for this. Maybe I go to Vegas for this. Let's see it happen. I think that's a big thing we're going to see. We have to move on a little bit since we're on the topic of basketball. We mentioned earlier in the show, we loved anime. And since we're talking basketball, I want to have a little draft with you, Mac.
Okay.
I want to have a little draft. And the draft I want to have, we're going to do starting 5 anime basketball team. Okay. And with the last pick, you select your head coach of that team.
Okay. All right.
So let's do this. You see this coaster here?
I see it.
I'm going to flip the coaster. Brown's helmet, heads, nothing tails. You can call it in the air. You can call it. All right. You ready? Go.
I'm ready. Heads.
Oh. Tails.
Oh my. Okay. All right.
I know who my number 1 pick's going to be already.
Okay.
At my point guard position, I'm going to go Jinwoo solo leveling. At my 1, because if he needs to take over the game, what is he going to do? He's just going to constantly level up with everything, all the defense thrown at him, and he's going to ball out.
Okay. Then with my pick, I am going to go ahead and pick my shooting guard. I'm going to pick Satoru Gojo as my shooting guard. So
Gojo at the 2.
I
like that. I'm gonna get a little cheesy here.
Okay.
I hate this show.
Okay.
I told you I hated this show. But at my center, I'm picking Monkey D. Luffy.
Okay.
At the center position. He has length, man. That's what you want at your center position. You need the length. He's gonna look like Wemby out there.
Okay. All right. Then I'm gonna pick my small forward. I'm gonna go Goku.
Goku at small forward. See, the power scale there is planetary. That's insane. That's actually insane. I got
Gojo and Goku on the wings, dog.
So let's see. That's why I'm happy with my number 1 pick, because there's no cap.
Yeah. Again, you have the unlimited power scaling, dog.
Yeah,
I get it.
Cap. Even though your players are literally gods. So I got my 1 and my 5. Who can I match up? I guess at my 3, then, since you said Goku, my small forward's going to be Jiren.
Okay. All right.
I need to match that power scale somehow. Like, you're just not going to hit me with a planetary power scale. I have to pick Jiren at my 3.
Okay. All right. So you already got your point, but look at point guard. I need somebody who's going to be able to read what you're doing on offense and defense, and is able to go ahead just in real time. Just go ahead and break it all down. Give me Deku at point.
Okay, Deku at point. We got a little good matchup here going. We're gonna have to after the show.
I gotta say, with one for all.
Okay,
with one for all. Not end of the. We're not doing the end there. We're not doing the end. No. With one for all still.
All right, let's see.
Spoilers.
So I have my 2 left, and I have my power forward. I think at the 2, I have to go Naruto Uzumaki.
Okay.
At my 2, I have to figure something out. Maybe he can confuse your defense with some shadow clones or something. They can call it 6-man. He can release the jutsu, and he's tenacious. Can you imagine Naruto guarding you? He just now you're quadruple teamed because he called out the shadow clones. What are you going to do after that?
Oh man. Hold on. I want to make sure I have the right name. I want to make sure I get this right. So at my power forward, I'm going to go with Toji Fushiguro from JJK. Okay. He's going to be my power forward. Locking it down. Again, when it comes to athletic ability, nobody's topping him.
All right, so I think that just leaves my power forward left. There's a lot of good picks here.
I know, man. We're cooking.
Who do I select for my 4? See, this is where it gets crazy.
Against Toji.
Yeah, that's what's difficult, and I'm trying to mix it up. I don't want to go like too many off the script different animes or use too much in one.
Nah, man. You know what? The more deep cuts, the better. Let's see what you got.
No. I'm gonna cheat a little bit. I'm gonna cheat because I'm gonna pick another Dragon Ball character at my 4.
Okay.
I'm gonna pick Cell at my 4.
Ooh, okay.
Perfect Cell. He has the height. He has the strength. He has the intelligence. So if someone is bigger and stronger, he knows how to finesse and have his way around a player of that manner.
Okay. Oh, God bless it. All right. Actually, you know what? I kind of hate that I'm constantly going back to JJK because honestly, I had a different person in mind for my center. But I'm gonna switch it up. I'm actually gonna go with Toto.
Okay.
As my center. Gonna be able to fake you out on defense, especially. Go ahead, just clap and switch you back in and make sure we're always in the perfect position.
Okay, I like that. Now, I said head coach, and we
still got 6-man.
Oh, we got the 6. I forgot about that. You know what? I think for the 6-man, I'm not going to go power scale.
Okay.
I think I just want a glue guy, a guy that's going to keep the team constantly improving. Mm-hmm. Even though we have a lot of warriors on these teams, I just need someone that's going to show them how to use the power of youth. Okay.
Oh my God.
And I'm going to use my glue guy. I'm going to use my glue guy. It's going to be Guy. I was going to go Rock Lee, but in my head, all I can hear is Guy Sensei screaming, "Use the power of youth, Lee!" And that's going to be my 6-man. Plus, he almost killed Madara. So what can you say? He almost killed him single-handedly. If Madara wasn't reanimated, he would have been dead. That's going to be my 6-man.
Okay. You know what? I'm going to go ahead and take somebody who's not afraid to do the dirty work. You know, he's going to go ahead and put whatever you need on his back. Basically, he's willing to do it. And you know, he also can, you know, mess with you quite a bit. I'm going to go ahead and take Itachi.
That's a smart move.
Yeah,
That's a smart move because those genjutsus,
exactly, man.
they're insane. The only thing I can think of, he'll get a couple people. I think my point guard will be safe from Itachi. Actually, Guy's safe from Itachi. We saw a guy looked right at Itachi.
That's fair. That's
He
fair
looked right
point.
at Itachi, and they're like, "We shouldn't fight Guy right now. It's too dangerous. We didn't come here from a battle." So I like Itachi there, though. There's going to be some people that are going to have problems. I think Cell's going to have a problem with Itachi. I think Luffy's going to have a huge problem with Itachi, actually. He's going to have – I'm just going to – my center's obsolete after that.
Yeah.
But I think this is where I'm going to have the edge.
Okay.
I think this is going to edge me out because who I'm selecting as my head coach.
Okay.
I'm going to select Light Yagami.
Oh, damn you.
As my head coach.
That's good. That's good.
We need a brain. We need someone that's going to be in there and they're going to think about every scenario. They're going to know about power scales. They're going to understand that you can't look directly in Itachi's eyes. Watch his hands and feet while he's dribbling.
See, here's the thing, right? Is that between Itachi, Deku, I have guys that are basically like player coaches, but I need somebody that can really rally the troops and really get the most out of my roster. I'm gonna go with Commander Erwin.
Okay.
From Attack on Titan. I think that my players rage. My players get through. They go ahead and they go over the top.
So I was nervous that you were going to try to put like Goku and Vegeta on the same team. You were smart not to do that because that would have been your downfall. You can't put them on the same team. They can't even fight together, let alone play a sport together.
See, here's the thing. I thought about Sukuna for a little bit, but also I'm just like, he's just going to tank whoever the hell is on my own team anyway. So
I guess I had a second head coach thought.
Okay.
And that was the Pharaoh. That was Yugi Moto.
Oh,
that was
okay.
Because he's the king of games. That was my second thought. I'm like, no, I need a bigger brain than that.
Assistant coach is Kaiba.
Yeah, right. like literally. We're up against it. We're a little over, but I didn't want to ask you a couple would you rathers really quick.
Okay. Let's hit me with it. Rapid fire.
What we're gonna do is for everybody watching, we're going to clip that and we're going to put a list and they're going to vote on whose team they'll think will win. All right. The first would you rather. So the first would you rather. You can elect not to answer this one, actually, if you like.
Okay.
So would you rather the Dolans own the Browns and the Guardians or the Haslams own the Browns and the Guardians?
I
said you could opt out of this one.
I think I'll pass on that one.
Smart move. All right.
Damn. Fucking
right off the rip. All right. So the second one, out of the two NBA big threes, which one do you think is better? Seth, Clay, and KD, or Bron, Bosh, and Wade?
Ooh. I would say Steph, Clay, and KD, just because all three of them they could knock you out from any spot on the floor. Right. And I have seen both big threes in person. And I'm lucky enough to say that. And I'm not going to lie. It felt like watching the Golden State Warriors with Kevin Durant in that first year. It felt like watching an anime.
Yeah. It did. Everybody needs
it was game 3 where the Cavs had a big lead. It was game 4. Cavs had a lead and like a big lead in the third quarter. And I was like, oh, great. Okay. Oh, my God. We're going to win. We're going to tie the series up. And then literally it was almost like you could hear like the violin of like the villain like theme going.
Yeah, that's funny.
Of just starting to go through. And Kevin Durant made every 3. Yeah. And it felt like it was right. I was in the upper deck. It felt like he was doing it just to me on purpose.
That's part of the reason we hate KD in Cleveland. All right. We got to move on to the next one.
Yeah. Got you.
So would you rather Game 7, NBA Finals.
Okay.
0.5 on the clock because if it's 0.3, it's impossible to get a shot off. Mathematically impossible. So 0.5 on the clock, you hit the buzzer beater to win the game. Or World Series Game 7, you're down by 3, grand slam home run walk off.
Oh, God. God, man. No, you know what? Okay, I would say this. I would say World Series.
Mm-hmm.
And here's my reasoning is that I get the longer trot to celebrate.
Yeah, that's true.
You get the full crowd.
Everyone
you also
doesn't
get to
storm.
stunt on them with like the bat flip.
Yeah.
You can go ahead like celebrate walking around. You have the mob at home plate. I get to go ahead and have my a literal victory lap around.
You get to have the victory lap.
Yeah,
and you can watch everybody
in the NBA. That's sick. But no, give me the
this
walk
is
off.
Different. You see your team. You see your team waiting for you.
Exactly.
While you come back, I get it. They're watching you walk home into glory. The golden arches. All right. The next one. Would you rather make the playoffs and lose embarrassingly in any sport, or not make the playoffs at all?
Oh God. Here's the better question. How far into the playoffs am I?
Round 1.
Round 1? Okay.
I'd
rather not get there.
Okay.
Yeah. If it's an embarrassing round 1 loss, no, I'm out. I don't need it.
Okay, so
we'll come back. We'll get better next year. We don't need to worry about that. But if it's an embarrassing loss, no, absolutely not.
Now, would you rather be the best player on a terrible team or a bench player that never sees the game on a championship team?
Dude, here's the thing, right? Is that, real quick, ever since I was a kid, I was blessed / cursed with self-awareness to the point where like I was like 10 and I told my coach, look, I'm 6. He goes, what do you mean? I'm like, coach, I'm 6 fouls. Put me in.
Yeah.
I was like, I got you. I know what I'm here to do. I know what I got to do. And so I will gladly be a bench warmer that does not get up off the bench if it means I get a ring. I'm cool with that. I'm fine with it. I don't need to be the star player on a bad team. At that point, like, although then again, I might get paid better.
You get paid better. You're that guy.
You're that guy. I get all the brand deals, everything okay. That's
all
tough.
The sponsorships. You get everything.
That's tough.
You make the money. There's all money, no glory. But on the other side, you get a little bit of glory, but nobody remembers your name.
I mean, I don't know, man. We still talk about Dante Jones.
Yeah.
And like he signed like 2 days before the end of the regular season. We still know Dante Jones.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, to an extent. to an extent, right?
Nah, give me the chip. Give me the chip.
Yeah. So let's say you lived in like California. Do you want to be Norris Cole? Where on that Miami Heat team, we know him because we're from Cleveland and he went to Cleveland State, but not your average person knows Norris Cole.
Yeah.
Or let's say or do you want to be LeBron on the 05?
Do you want to be LaMelo?
Yeah. LaMelo for modern day.
Yeah.
Sake. So who do you want to be Carmelo Anthony on the Denver Nuggets? Like what do you want? Because still those bad teams, being the best player on the bad team, you'll still make the playoffs, but you're never going to win anything.
See, and here's actually, you know what? Yeah, I'll go Norris Cole because here's the thing is that I also can go overseas. I can get a bag from a team overseas as they sign a former champion. I can go ahead and go overseas. I can bill myself. That's marketing. All right, let's do it.
Anybody can sign overseas, man. J. Cole just signed overseas.
Exactly my
point. Again, that's his second trip on a basketball team overseas.
But that's just it. You got to have the billing. Everybody knows J. Cole. But for me, I'm like, hey, you know what? I'm a champion. You don't know how much of a role that I had, but I'm a champion. That's all you got to know.
You can be like Stephon Marbury in China. They'll build a statue of Mac Robinson in Shanghai.
But they're going to do it with a ring on my finger.
All right. Well, Mac, we went a little bit over, but it's fine. It was great having you on the show. I'm sure we'll do this again next time. I appreciate you coming on. I appreciate the anime talk. I'm sure we'll talk more off air. Because you actually didn't give me your take that I was waiting for because we went a little bit over. but I'm gonna listen to it off air, and I'll talk about it another time. But ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening to Mic Check Take 2 on the Inside Edge Network. I am your host, once again, the DAVID, the Real Ruiz, and I was joined today by 92.3 The Fans, Afternoon Drive, Mac Robinson, audio engineer of the Cleveland Browns. Thanks again for coming, Mac. We appreciate you.
Thank you for having me. Always happy to do it.
Until next time.